Welcome to Fairfield Public Access Television. I'm Susan Kessel. We're here today to talk about the Jefferson County Civic Center. And with me is Sally Neff, chairman of our board, Andrew Edlin, board member and actor, and Kelsey Mullen, who is a local boy, young man, and architect for us. We've come a long way, Sally, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
How many years has it been?
Well, actually, the Jefferson County Civic Center board was incorporated about 5 years ago. But the dream and the project and the idea has been around a long time before that and has been discussed by many groups under many different circumstances. And about 5 years ago, we really got organized.
Yes. And organized is a good word because it has taken a lot of organization. We formed a board of 10 members.
Now 12.
12, and we've met over this time period every month.
Sometimes twice.
At least. And we're organized. We have a treasurer and secretary, and we've worked hard. So we have come a long way.
The main impetus when we began was our awareness of the lack of good performance space in Fairfield. And that was what prompted us to get started in the first place. But immediately, there came on board the Fairfield Art Association because they were in the process of losing their home
right
at the time.
The same time.
Right. And also, the business community began to take a real interest in our project. So what began as the plans for, let's see if we can build a new theater, has turned into a very all-encompassing facility. And we hope we'll be able to provide this for the Fairfield area.
And as we have progressed with ideas, different things have changed, like our location of where we thought we were going to have it and people's involvement, and a lot of things have evolved, and hopefully after all these years we've come to some basic ideas that we really want to bring forth in our Civic Center.
We couldn't have reached the point we are now, though, without the support of a lot of people who may have been more involved in the early stages than they actually are right now. One group that we'd like to credit is the Jefferson County Fair Board, who have from the beginning been very supportive of the whole idea of the project, and some of their board members have and continue to serve on our board. We received valuable help from Martha Bell early on.
Yes.
As we began to figure out what this facility should include and how we could include it. The Chamber of Commerce has been constantly supportive of this project. We've had real good support, and we feel that the plans that we've come up with, the location we've decided on, will indeed benefit the community to the greatest possible level.
And also, when we were developing, we took a lot of trips and did a lot of surveys. You and I visited Pella and Oskaloosa, 3 places in one day to investigate and look at auditorium performance areas. When Jane McNerney was in town, we visited the Washington Community Center. We did tapings, and then since then they've been visited again.
And facilities that we weren't able to visit actually physically, we've talked to the people involved with those facilities on the telephone. We've asked a lot of questions. We've received a lot of valuable information on what planners of those facilities would do again and what they wouldn't do again. Good input, especially from the manager of the Oskaloosa, the George Daly
yes.
Auditorium. He has given us lots and lots of good information, and I think we'll probably be turning to him again as we go a little farther with our project.
I'm sure we will. So we contacted a lot of smaller towns, similar in size, to get their input, what a facility should have. A lot of information from Fairfield people has also been gathered.
Right. Any group or individual or small group of individuals that we thought might have potential to be interested in using the facility, those groups have been interviewed either formally or informally. Also, many of those groups and many of those populations are represented on our board.
Right.
We bring a variety of backgrounds to the board, and there's not a single person
such as Andrew. Andrew is an actor,
right.
Very involved in theater in his life.
And this is going to be a wonderful space. Kelsey is going to tell us a little bit about the theatre and the convention space, the Pavilion, in a moment, but the theatre is very, very exciting. When we call it a theatre, it's really a performing arts space, and there is an important difference. We did canvass the opinions of dance groups, theatre groups, music groups, because you want to create a space which is suitable acoustically and in terms of the performance facilities for every sort of performing arts group, and for that matter, even for things which would not normally be considered performing arts, meetings and speeches which would go on in a large auditorium. And we went through a lot of different ideas and designs and thoughts, and should we have this and should we not have that, and the architects, I have to say, have been just fabulous. You know, I certainly kept pestering them with different ideas and things I'd found on the net, and they were very responsive always. And I think as a board, and the architects too, we're very proud of the immense amount of work that's gone into preparing the schematic drawings which we now have of the proposed Civic Center, because they represent a great deal of research and thought. This is not something that someone dreamt up on the back of an envelope. It really has a lot of detail, and one finds that when one fields questions from people at the many meetings to talk about the Civic Center we've been having in the last few months, that when people say, well, why is this there? There's normally a reason, which is a good sign.
You are exactly right, because we have went through a lot of questioning. There are a lot of people in Fairfield that would use a theater, and so we've got a lot of different opinions. We visited with Scott Slechta, and he directs for FAC theater, and so that's a different need than what you would need and other needs.
Right.
So there's been a lot of input to bring us to this point.
A lot of input, and in general the space will be flexible, the entire Civic Center, not just the performing arts side, so it can be used for anything. You know, people sometimes say, well, you know, what would it be used for? And you know, the best answer to that is, well, you have 2 or 3 hours and we can give you a list, you know, because there's just so many different sorts of facilities, sorts of events that could be used in a facility of this kind, and not just from things that happen in Fairfield. One of the beautiful things about the performing arts space is, of course, that traveling artists who are coming through the Midwest, and most artists go by road because they have stuff, will be delighted to use this auditorium. So Fairfield and the surrounding area will get the benefit of seeing artists that otherwise they would have to travel to, or wouldn't get the opportunity to see at all. So not only will be a showcase for local talent and local events, but also for traveling artists who are coming through.
I agree.
I think one thing we want to be sure to emphasize is that the facility, the total building, we hope will provide opportunities for everyone in this community, everyone in this county, to do something. It may or may not have anything to do with the performing arts.
That's
We
right.
have another whole component that Kelsey will share with you, meeting space for large meetings and small meetings, and any kind of activity that anybody could imagine really could take place in the facility that we've come up with.
That's right.
So it's not just for the performing arts, it's not just for business, it's for everyone.
Right, and I would like to mention at this time that part of the reason we're giving this program is that there will be 3 public briefings presented to the community. You're invited to come to ask questions, see what we've come up with. Probably we have all the answers because we have worked so hard, but maybe you have something that might influence something that needs to be done. So we welcome people.
Right.
Those dates are?
The dates and times are Tuesday, January 22nd at 7:30 in the evening. The next day, Wednesday, January 23rd at 5 o'clock in the evening. And the following day, Thursday, January 24th at noon. And all of those briefings will be held in the Fairfield Public Library meeting room. We'll repeat those again at the end of the program, so you can be sure to mark your calendar.
Right. Well, Kelsey, we are very happy to have you as an architect for the Jefferson County Civic Center. It's been wonderful to have you because you're in town and you have spent almost every single day, I'm sure, working on a little part of this, and
Nearly.
you're able to interact with the community, and hopefully we'll have a lot of Fairfield and county people working on the Civic Center, because that you are here so we can involve them.
That was one of the theories, was to get as many people involved in the project, not only in the design, but in getting the project built, was to keep it as local as possible. And that, I think it's evident in the design that we cater to so many different people. One of the issues in the design was how we wanted to make the building as flexible as possible so that each group could be accommodated in this building. Not just a few different types of activities, but many, many activities. We ended up interviewing, we spent days interviewing people,
Yes.
different groups, making notes about what people would want in this building.
Businessmen, artists.
Right, and we had some crossover, but we had many, many different ideas to put into this building, and we did our best to accommodate for every single person that had an interest in the building, so that it really fit Fairfield.
Yes, and Kelsey, also, the Jefferson County Civic Center was your project when you were graduating, is that correct?
It's true. I actually did a design. We met, it was 5-6 years ago, we met and over lunch, and I actually did a design for the Jefferson County Civic Center as my thesis.
Totally different than this.
Oh, it was quite different.
But you've come with several different ideas as our ideas have changed, and you also are working with Mark Bauer out of
Architectural workshop in Denver.
right.
That's right, and we have a little group of architects and consultants, and it's not so little. We actually have 9 different entities, either individuals or firms, working together on the design. Everywhere from locally, we have French Reniker working on our site, to theater consultants, acoustical consultants.
Which I was so impressed because they came all the way from Colorado.
Yes.
They measured the sound from the train, from the fire station, from the bell, the clock tower, all of this that comes in play.
That's right, vibrations even.
Very
We-
professional.
Very professional.
We have to keep all of that out. And so we will design it so that when you're enjoying something in the theater, you'll have no idea what's outside the theater.
And you've taken all of these groups, the Art Association, I was throwing at you things that they would want. I know Concert Association, things that they would like, the different actors, the dancers, and the kind of stage. And you've had a lot of work to do working with all of us.
Well, it's difficult when you have so many different ideas to put into one piece, and so there ends up being some compromises, but that doesn't really compromise the project because we've designed it so that everyone can use it.
A tractor coming in.
We could put a tractor in this building. We've designed the pavilion so that the flooring could withstand it, so that the structure of the floor could withstand it, and the doors are big enough to bring it in. So it's, and I'll get to that in a minute, but yeah, we could do many things in this facility.
So we are very fortunate to have you here in town to actually be by our side working with us step by step. We also are fortunate to have Gary Vance along with us, and his title is what?
He's our campaign director now.
Campaign director.
He is with Advanced Fundraising, I believe is the name of it. And he and his brother were the folks who headed up our very successful library campaign a few years ago. He's very familiar with our community and
A real plus.
knows people here well now and has been able to give us lots of good advice and lots of good suggestions and much guidance.
His feasibility is study he did initially, and he met with a lot of people, and a lot of things came out of that. And his decision for us to go forward with this project, because if he would have said no, we would have backed off. But he was very excited, enthusiastic. But one thing that came out of that study was the location.
Yeah. Earlier considerations had been to locate the facility on one or the other of the west or eastern edges of town, and there were some good reasons for considering those
Right.
spots. But as a result of the study, Gary informed us that there was overwhelming support to put the facility closer to downtown, in the downtown area. And at just about the same time, the Chamber and the city began to look at serious considerations for revitalizing the downtown area of Fairfield. And those of us
Perfect
that
timing.
have been here for a while know it's definitely in need of that. And we'd like to see that spark and that energy back in
Right.
downtown Fairfield. So we were glad to become part of that by selecting a location. And many people are familiar now that the location
Right.
is the city block that's directly west of the Jefferson County Courthouse. And I know Kelsey will talk a little bit more about that after a while, about how that's influenced the design of the facility.
Yes. I initially thought downtown, how are we going to put something like this downtown? But the more I learned, the more excited I've gotten about this project. And one of the reasons we don't want to have it out on the end of town is we want to bring people off the bypass when they're going around Fairfield. We want to bring them into town. We want to get them walking around our square and let some new businesses evolve from this project. And I think it's going to be wonderful. I'm so excited.
We realize that there are some concerns about the availability of parking
Yes.
for the facility. And it's not as bad as it sounds.
No, it's not.
It's
There-
not bad at all,
Yeah.
and there's
Yeah.
a large number of parking spaces within one block and 2 blocks. I think Kelsey can give us some details.
I think Kelsey and Gary actually walked and counted spaces.
We did. First off, I should note that in the design, we're taking over the whole block. And so I should note that in the design, we're actually placing 100 spots on the site. Not including those spots, if we walked the perimeter, the surrounding area, 1 block out, we would end up finding an additional 250 spots. If we walked 1 additional block out, 2 blocks out, we would find over 600 parking spaces. And these are all public spaces, not church, not office. And so there is plenty of parking downtown.
And that's comparable to if you go to Hampshire or somewhere, you expect to walk. We also will have a drive-up area, of course, for handicapped or those that can't walk or the bad weather. But then we'll get people walking downtown by your stores and your businesses, so it's very exciting.
We also thought about the idea of putting underground parking or a parking garage. But that went against the idea of downtown revitalization.
They would drive in and-
They would drive in, they would drive out, and they would never end up getting downtown. It goes against the idea of putting our building downtown. It would be the same as putting it in the country.
It's expensive and it's ugly as well.
Yes. Yes.
Other considerations.
And just as the usage of this facility is limited really only by people's capacity to imagine what they could do there,
Right.
really the effect that this can have on our community is somewhat limited only by people's imagination of what can happen to Fairfield and especially to the downtown part of Fairfield once this facility is up and running and people are coming to town. You know, what else do they need when they're in town? There's a lot of things they need, and hopefully maybe those services can be provided right in downtown Fairfield.
And expanded.
I mean, a lot of talk has been made of encouraging Fairfield as a tourist destination. I mean, the Civic Center is the obvious reason for people to come here.
Right.
And the current plan, of course, is to have the Fairfield Chamber of Commerce as part of this facility. And when people come to town, the first place they usually look for is the chamber for information about the community. Well, that'll bring them immediately into this beautiful facility, and we traffic in and out all the time.
So we are excited about that also. So Kelsey, why don't you share with us some of the plans? One other thing I should mention. Barhydt, we've been able to include some wonderful parts of Barhydt to keep it alive in our community.
From just stone elements through and including some of the smaller stained glass windows and one of the beautiful large stained glass windows.
That's right.
And there is still very serious consideration being given to including the organ in the facility.
We have had some questions on that, and you'll have to explain on the plans where we have a spot for the organ when we are able to raise the money to put that in.
Okay.
So I'll turn it over to you, Kelsey.
Okay, great.
And you can share with us these wonderful drawings.
Great, I'd be happy to. Well, what you're looking at here is the building. You're looking west, and this is our downtown site. This is the obvious reason why we want to put the building downtown, and I'll get to that more in a minute. But what we're looking at is the facade of the building that is facing the courthouse. And so what you see is the basic volume for the theater here, and then the entranceway, and then the volume for the pavilion on this side. One of the design ideas we had was, one of the problems we had was how to make a building fit into downtown. One of the things we did was we borrowed the same 28-foot dimension that you find on the buildings downtown on the square. We also borrowed the same color brick that you find on some of the buildings and on the courthouse right across the street. Because if you see in the reflection here, you actually see the courthouse, and we've designed that curving glass facade, that entrance, so that when you're approaching the building, you'll actually see a reflection of the courthouse right behind you. One other way we tried to tie the building into downtown. And as the building moves north into the residential area, this being a more urban streetscape on this side, on the north side of the building, what we did was we broke the building down to a smaller scale to replicate the houses that are just north of our building. Another way we tried to really make this building fit in to the downtown streetscape, into this neighborhood. Now in the next board is the floor plan. And what you see are the two basic volumes. This is the theater seating approximately 520, and here's the stage. Over here we have the pavilion, which is 12,000 square feet. It was mentioned earlier about how this could be utilized for many different business purposes. What we've designed is many different rooms that can be divided and made into different sizes to be rented. Meeting rooms ranging from 600 square feet all the way up to 1,800 square feet, or they could all be open and it could be a 12,000 square foot space that could be rented. In between those two spaces is the support space. Additionally, the Fairfield Art Association has a permanent home here. The other permanent resident is the Chamber of Commerce. They'll be located here, as they'll have a little bit something to do with what will be happening in the pavilion. The third space that is really evolving in this design is the atrium. This is where a lot of our elements from Barhydt Chapel are located. I'll get to that on the next board. But the atrium, it's a large space, a lot of glass. Here's the front of it. This is a big plaza you'll see in the next board. This atrium space is really turning into a third space, something that could be rented. I think it will be really spectacular. In that atrium space will be what we're calling the Barhydt Art Gallery, where elements of the Barhydt Chapel have been preserved or rebuilt so that we could have permanent or temporary art exhibits happening in the atrium space, so that if people are going to something in the pavilion or in the theater, when they're in the atrium, they can see these elements and the art that's being displayed. Now in the next board, this really talks about why we're putting this building downtown. We're standing in the plaza in front of the building, looking south. You can see the reflection of the courthouse here in the glass I was talking about earlier. This really talks about the energy that this building could produce for downtown. The people coming to this building could create that energy and that interest in downtown, serving for downtown revitalization. Our landscape architect is calling this an art walk, but I'm seeing it as more of an avenue of interest between our building and the courthouse right across the street. That interest that would hopefully go and continue downtown into those shops and those areas. You can see evidence of Barhydt Chapel in the benches using the stonework. Through this glass window you can see one of the large stained glass windows that we've salvaged, or I would rather say borrowed. And that will actually be inside the lobby space, protected from the elements, as sort of a respect to Parsons College. We can see the arches that we rebuilt here that will be the Barhydt Art Gallery. This is a really terrific picture. It's almost like you can walk right into it.
I have to say, Kelsey, when I knew that you were going to bring us the final plans the evening of our meeting, and we'd given you so much input, and we'd seen little sketches here and there and different things, and I thought to myself, what if I don't like what he gives us? We're at the end of the road here, and you brought these in, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I loved how it tied the building to the courthouse, to the downtown square, how it looks modern, and yet how it looks like it's been there a long time. All the elements that you've come through with, all of our ideas that we've thrown at you. I was really amazed and very happy.
That's been the general response, I think.
Yes.
I think when the picture appeared in the Fairfield Ledger, a lot of people really sort of sat up and took notice. And it's been very exciting. There's been a change in atmosphere since. People have been looking forward to this, looking to the future.
It's a wonderful, exciting project, and I'm so glad that to be involved in this. I think of our forefathers and how they built our community, and how this is going to be a part of our community, an important part, and the legacy that we leave to the community because we're doing this. And I'm very excited and pleased. I know that there are probably a lot of questions out there that people have, and they should come to the public meeting because we do have a lot of things that we're not covering now, a lot of more details, our financial situation, how we are at present, and our fundraising, how it's gone, and different questions that people have that we do have a lot of answers to that we'll be talking about at the public briefing. And those dates again are?
Tuesday, January 22nd, 7:30 p.m., Wednesday, January 23rd at 5 o'clock, and Thursday, January 24th at noon, all at the Fairfield Public Library in the meeting room.
Those will be posted on FPAC?
Yes, I'll put them on our scroll, and we hope that people will come. Maybe there is something that we forgot about, maybe a little tiny detail that needs tweaked. I know that Kelsey's been visiting with people that are chefs and have restaurants here in town to get their input for the warming kitchen, because we want the community out there, the business people, the restaurant people, to use this facility to enhance their
That's
situation.
right.
And so there are little things that maybe we still need to be told. And
This is technically schematic design, so it is a design that is in the works. So if there is anything that we've missed, or if you have input, please come to these meetings because we're listening.
we have spent a lot of time though. So
Yes, we have.
we have 5 years of putting this together. It's been slow, but boy, do I feel good about it.
And on behalf of the board, all
Yes.
12 of us at this point, I would like to issue a personal invitation to people to please come. We want you to get a much closer, much better look at the floor plan that Kelsey and Mark and their associates have created for us. We want you to get a really good look at this picture that you can walk right into. And more than anything else, we want to hear from you what you think we've done well. And as Susan said, if you have a suggestion for us, have an idea, it may be just that magic little something that we haven't thought of yet that would make this an even more special facility.
We welcome you to become involved with our project in any way that you can.
Because that's what the project is all about. It's all about community.
Right.
And just as people will be involved in using it, we want them to be involved in thinking about it and helping put the finishing touches to the design process.
And involved in making it happen.
And definitely involved in making it
We're
happen.
going to be needing money, and it is a fundraising, not a bond issue or anything like that. So that's important that you know also.
Right.
Well, Sally, thank you.
Well, thank you.
I'm glad we did this, and the board and everyone else. Andrew and
Susan,
Kelsey, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
You'll hear more from us later.